Evening, everybody. I just wanted to get your attention. We've changed up the format on how we're doing committees for a little bit, trying to get it better organized, to still engage the public and make sure that everybody understands that this is an open dialogue and you can ask questions and talk to us. We wanted to move the podiums up, but we also want to be able to see each other when we discuss things. So when we get to the committees, if there's an agenda item that comes up, if you do want to speak about, make sure that you raise your hand to get recognized by the chair. The chairs of the committee will start the meeting, and they'll be the ones facilitating it. For Physical Services, Fran Enright is the chairman. For Planning and Development, Bill Barlow is the chairman, and I chair Administrative Services. So if you have any questions during those, make sure you raise your hand when you're recognized. Try and find your way to a microphone so that we can hear you. When we have these broadcasted, we want to make sure that the public's comments also make it into the minutes. So with that, we're going to get started.
Okay, I'd like to call the Physical Service Committee to order. Here.
Here.
Here. Here. Under old business, we have any old business to bring forward? Seeing none, I'd like to move on to new business. Under authorization, Mayor Gillen received correspondence from Sue Deary, representing the Oswego Lions Club. Ms. Deary stated that last year they requested use of the Veterans Park, but this year requesting the use of an alternate site, and therefore is requesting use of Brightbeck Park for their 4th annual River Edge Craft Show to be held on Sunday, June 7th, 2015 from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. They also are requesting use of the bandstand, a waiver of the noise ordinance in order to have live music, a waiver of the open container ordinance for the wine tasting, use of the 2 parking lots, one for vendor parking, the other for the public parking. They are also requesting permission to place several A-frame signs at various locations advertising the craft show. The signs will be displayed for 2 weeks prior to the show and will be removed immediately after. They will provide a certificate of liability insurance in the amount of $1 million, listing the City of Oswego as named additional insured. Someone speak for the Lions Club here?
Good evening. We, as the Lions Club, and speaking on behalf of the members of the Lions Club, we have kind of outgrown our venues, which is a good thing for us. We found that our craft show has become a very good event for the community. We've heard many great things about what's going on with the craft show, and unfortunately we've kind of grown out of our River's Edge craft show venue and kind of looking for something to grow into a little bit bigger. So we're hoping to be able to use like the northeast end of Brightbeck Park to move our event there.
I have a couple questions here with the request. You know, in order to have a wine test, you have to have a permit for the open container, which I believe the chief can set you up with that. Also, the noise ordinance, you'll need a variance, which you can pick up from Barb Sugar with the required information on that for your noise ordinance permit. The various signs and places you have, is this going to be in the same places you've located in the past?
Yes. We find that they work best. Yes.
Thank you. Is there any questions from anybody out there in regards to this? Yes, Commissioner.
The parking lot that's right by McCroby Building, the bigger, the square one by the bell, and the one that's down on the other end of where the bathrooms are in the kids' park. Yes, that's where we'll put the vendors down at. No, we're hoping to be on the other end of the park.
Commissioner, are you going to check those dates? Any chance of you to affirm that they're open?
Yes, one of my questions, I'll certainly check the date. I suspect that we will want to rent the pavilion this day. So we'll have to see how we can accommodate both events.
Any more questions? Seeing none?
I'd like to say a little bit about this. I think it's been a great progress through the last couple years that they've been doing. It started down at Bridey Manor. What was there, 30, 40 booths? Moved down here, 60, 80.
Yep,
Now hopefully you have a little bit more.
right.
And bringing a lot of people in the city, and I appreciate it. I would say thank you.
At this
Thank
past
you.
year's craft show, the amount of people that showed up blew all of our minds. We had no anticipation that that many people would attend, and it was phenomenal. It was absolutely wonderful. We had, I believe, 3 boats that docked along the river there and hung out for the day, and we had nothing but a good response from the vendors and the people that attended. We had people walking by us, said, "Great job, why don't you do this every weekend?" And we just looked at them cross-eyed. So there's no way.
There's no doubt this has been a great success, and it is nice to see this starting to happen. I'd like to see something similar happening on all the weekends here. Thanks for all the
Yeah,
effort
we can use it.
you did that.
Good for the community.
And then I'd make a motion.
Have a second? Yes?
Yes.
I'm going to abstain due to the fact I do business at the restaurant.
Commissioner, could you make that resolution?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 2. Barb Sugar, City Clerk, received correspondence from Elizabeth and Robert McGrath, owner of Spencer's Alley Tavern, located at 124 West 2nd Street, for a variance or permit to operate outside of the decibel limit set forth in the noise ordinance in order to have live music at their open-air establishment Wednesday through Sunday from May until September 2015. And there's some attachments on that. And in the letter of the request, we have this information I just read, plus it's for live music, and it is not to exceed 90 decibels on a decibel meter. Is there Robert here? Robert, thank you.
Yes, we have to change that a little bit because we're not going to do Wednesday night, we're not going to do Sunday afternoons, we're going to do Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. And we're making some acoustical changes inside this year. We're putting a roof with skylight openings on it, which should contain it a lot more than ever before, and hanging some acoustic devices inside to deaden the music. Those are the changes I'm making to the business. So, other than that, pretty much the same.
Is there anybody else here who'd like to come and speak about that? Yes, would you please step up to the podium and state your name and your address, please?
Good evening, Mayor Gillen, members of the City Council, ladies and gentlemen. My name's James Rizzo. I reside at 79 West 5th Street, and I've been a resident there for over 10 years. I'm the proprietor of a small business downtown as well. Why are we here? Because the council, mayor, this city's government has been granting variances to the noise ordinance. And even with such granted variances, apparently that's not enough for those who seek to make more noise than our city's regulations allow. Let us propose that instead of considering any kind of increase in the noise, the council and the mayor instead rescind all the variances and eliminate this problem completely. Eliminate the continuing problem and the continuing erosion to the quality of life in Oswego. There is no reason that the residents, homeowners, taxpayers, voters of the city should put up with the level of noise we now have. Our costly taxes should provide us with the quiet enjoyment we're entitled to. Who, or rather how many, benefit from variances granted to the noise ordinance for commercial establishments to make more noise than is allowed? And how many suffer on account of these variances? It seems clear that for the common good, no such variances should ever have been granted, and that all of them need to be immediately rescinded. Residents suffer now from far too much noise and other problems associated with the noisy commercial establishments downtown and already have diminished quality of life due to all of that. Higher noise levels encourage more higher noise levels all the way around. There's kind of a domino effect. So instead of residents having to seek out and find information on meetings for those individuals who want to make more noise than is allowed, that is taxpayers taking their limited free time to come down and encourage the city to do the right thing, let's just eliminate this assault on our quality of life by simply letting our city noise ordinance stand, eliminating all variances for commercial establishments. Oh, sure, once a week at the farmer's market and only till early evening is fine. Or the concerts in the park, which happen only on occasion, or this Lions Club event. That's always earlier in the evening and never really a problem. But continuing noise at commercial establishments till later in the evening, that's simply ridiculous on its face. It's not working now. Residents are suffering now. And increased noise levels till 2 in the morning? That's offensive. It's also offensive to have to organize other residents, property owners, voters, to come down here and motivate the city to uphold its own ordinances instead of granting variances. Why can't the city and our elected officials just do what's best for the city and the residents in the first place? Uphold the noise ordinance and eliminate the variances. I moved here from New York City, and even they don't grant these kinds of variances.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Phillips. I live in West Seneca Street. Did a little research, and what I discovered is the EPA has standards for noise levels. 70 is the highest standard that they allow without any type of hearing protection. Anything above 70 requires hearing protection. I guess my one question is, would the city or has the city opened itself up to liability if you're granting a variance in excess of federal standards that goes against the health and safety of the citizens and the employees? EPA is very specific. 75 and above requires that anybody who works there must wear protective ear guards. So I just don't want to see the city in a position where somebody comes back with hearing loss and says, well, the city said it was okay, so there's a liability there. Where I live on West Park. We have a large front porch. Most summer evenings you will find a number of our neighbors gathered sitting on our front porch. We can tell you what band is playing and what song is playing by the volume of the music that is over there right now. And I think that was at an 85 level. So we have really a new beginning in this city. Things are changing. What used to happen downtown is changing. There are people living downtown. We want to encourage more of that. And I don't think you're going to encourage it by increasing levels. So my suggestion is that we go with the EPA standards. 70 would be the maximum. And anything above 70 is going to require some sort of hearing protection. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Cindy Pauldine, and I live at 71 West 5th. I just got here, so welcome to my neighbors, and hello to Robert, whose business I know is the topic right now. And I want to preface what I'm saying by telling you that I've been in Oswego for about 30 years, have lived in the city all that time. I love the city. I choose to live in a small city. I really enjoy the noises of the city. My windows are open in the summer. I don't mind the sound of the Speedway. I don't mind hearing music in the distance. I don't mind the sounds of the sirens and St. Mary's bells. That's part of where I live. But there comes a time when the music is loud enough that you can't sleep, that you need to say, this is not correct. And I would certainly be the first to agree with what Jim said, and that is that we should not be granting variances at all. As everybody else has said more eloquently than I, there are numerous reasons for noise variances, and I would urge you to just eliminate all variances and let the city charter say what everyone, what commercial businesses, what we can all live with for noise. I would like to say that we enjoy going down to Robert's business, as many people. It's a successful business, and all of us want businesses to be successful, but we have to learn to live with each other, and we have to know that businesses that are on the edge of residential neighborhoods need to be cognizant of the fact that those of us who are, 0.3 miles away as the crow flies are hearing that music if it's any louder than it already is. So I want to concur with what the first two people have said and say, please, no variance, no extended variance, and eliminate variances altogether.
My name is Paul Stewart, 53 West Seneca. As many of you know, myself and my neighbors are investing heavily in West Park and in that neighborhood. We also recently bought a two-family rental, which is a substantial high-end rental that was rented very quickly upon showing. There's a lot of things that are changing in this city and in this downtown. It's not the way it was even 5 years ago. You've got people living in loft apartments, upper floor reuse of former buildings that were vacant. You've got a wave of revitalization spreading across West Park, 3rd, 4th, 5th Street. You've got people moving in, one from the UK, some people from Virginia. You've got people paying taxes, good paying jobs, good paying taxpayers. Downtown is for everybody. It's not only for people that stay up till 2 a.m. and drink. It's for everybody. That includes people that live in the Woodruff building that are complaining about the noises. That includes people like us that live on West Park. We know we live in a city. That's not the issue. We know there's noise. It's part of the fabric. But when that stuff is rattling on our front windows night after night, and my neighbor Dan on the left, and my neighbor James on the right, and Candace and Chris down on 5th, and Mark and Tom, and on, it is just completely outrageous. The law is 65 decibels. This council, not this particular one, but a couple years ago, granted a variance of 85 decibels for these businesses to play loud music at night. Every 10-unit increase in decibels is a doubling. So we're already at 4 times the normal limit. And now we find that the request is to 90 decibels, and now to 2 a.m.? So myself, us all, and our neighbors, we've been pushed too far. No more. We don't want any variances at all. We want people who want to live downtown or near downtown. They are your best customers. The people that live in the Woodruff building or in upper floor parts of downtown buy from the businesses, shop downtown, attend those restaurants. Steve and I and our neighbors are regular customers of the Bistro, of La Perilla, of Red Sun, of Port City. If you want a successful downtown, you want people that want to live there, want to be there, want to buy there, want to shop there. But if this city continues to allow small businesses to do things that create no-go zones for quality of life, for blocks in every direction, you keep driving residents out of the city, you will no longer be able to pay your bills. What we are doing, bringing the city back, and the future of the city is a mixed-use residential and retail area. That's where we want to go. So I urge you to deny this request and including no variance for the Clubhouse Tavern along West Park. Thank you.
Yes, good evening. My name is James Early. I live at 320 West 3rd Street, Oswego. And I come before the council to oppose this particular variance for some more technical reasons than might have been specified. I'm a musician. I actually have friends who have played at Spencer's. I've been there myself. I think it's a fine place. And I want that business, like every other business downtown, to be successful. So the question then is, what is a reasonable level of volume for the patrons of that establishment? Now, I've also done live sound, and I can tell you that a 90 decibel show is something that would be comparable to a venue like Franklin Park. You know, you want to fill that space with enough sound so that everybody in the park can hear it. In my opinion, that's far too excessive for an establishment on 2nd Street. What I would say is a reasonable level, the 65 decibel levels was put in place for a reason. As one point of comparison, you can have a freight train going by you at a distance of about 40 to 50 feet. That's a little less than 90 decibels, about 88 decibels. So imagine that you had a freight train going by your house continuously from, 9 till 2 a.m., Thursday through Sunday morning, early Sunday morning. Again, I think it's excessive. I think the council should stick with the ordinance. It has benefits for not just the patrons of Spencer's, but for other businesses as well. Thank you.
Doug Canfield at 102 West 4th Street. You probably heard the expression before you tear fences down, find out why they were put up. And I think that the reason the fence of the decibel level was put up is for the quality of life. And before you tear that down, think about the quality of life. I don't want to see any variance for this kind of loud music that disturbs the neighborhoods and brings down the quality of life.
Hello, Christopher Baker, 115 West 5th Street. I have 3 kids who, we're often outside in the summer in the backyard playing, having fun, and it's fine throughout the day for different noises and all that, but, at night when my kids have to sleep in the house, we live 3 blocks directly behind Spencer's Alley, and it would just be too much noise. They come down to us sometimes in the middle of the night saying that there's too much street noise going on now, whether it's a bar or college students, we have no idea, but I don't think that we need any more noise than we currently have in the city, especially to let, regular people sleep, especially kids who need it to get up and go to school and learn the way that they need to. So I don't think we should grant any variances for sound at all to be higher than they currently are.
Good evening. My name is Tanya Miller. I reside at 50 West 4th Street in the First Ward. I would like to expand a little on what Cindy Pauldine said. I was not born here either. I've lived here for about 12 years, and I love this city. My parents moved me here when I was 15. I went to college here. I bought a house here. I stayed here. I don't want to leave. And I love walking downtown on a sunny summer's evening when the sun is setting and the music is playing at Spencer's and people are having a good time. That's great. It's great at 8, 9 o'clock at night. It is not great at 1 in the morning. It is not great at the proposed noise levels. And I fail to see why we have any noise limitations in our code or whatever particular document they're in if we're going to grant variances for anything other than a 1 or 2 day event. A perfect example is the Lions Club event that was just requested. That's 1 day. It's not until 2 in the morning. And that's the very nature of a variance if we're going to offer them. Again, this is too late and too loud, and I don't think it should be approved, and any others that exist should be retracted. Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is, I'd like to say Common Sense, but it's Ethel Canfield for now. I live on 102 West 4th Street. This is we've lived here about 3 years. Within the 3 years, this is the second time we have had to address the issue of volume and lateness at night. At what point does the principle of the matter apply to what we're talking to? Do we have to keep coming back and back and back and back because this business, that business, that business? You let one, you're going to have to let two. You're going to have to let five. You're going to have to let them all have whatever. And what has been said before about what has been on principle an appropriate level, stick with it. I say don't keep giving variances. We have to live with it. Summer, it's warm. You want the windows open. You want the fresh air. But if you have loud noise all the time, I mean, what's the point? Are we as human beings not allowed to sleep? What are you tolerating? I've tried to teach my girls, I have 3 girls, be considerate of other people. I hope I don't have to come back again and say the same thing. Please be respectable, considerate, thoughtful. Is this what we want our youth to abide by? It's the principle that we're dealing with. And I trust that you men who have been entrusted with authority to make these decisions, think of the welfare of your constituents. Thank you.
Someone else out there would like to speak? Robert, do you have anything to say?
I think I've invested in my community here. I was born here in 1951, raised by my parents that owned a liquor store. They were in the liquor business too. And they taught me to respect other people's property and other people's businesses and everything else. And I think through the 18 years that I've been on business on West 2nd Street, I've done nothing but respect my neighbors. I've walked down through West Park with the decibel level meter in my hand at 10 o'clock at night, at 9 o'clock at night, at 8 o'clock at night, going back and forth, because I work my day job and my night job. I've never hit, standing in the middle of West Park, 85 or even close to 85 decibels any time I pass through the park, when I know my music is playing. Now, you guys hand out lots of decibel variances for all different occasions to all different people downtown. And I'm not going to be the one to stand up here and point fingers at any other business in town or any other variance that you pass out. But I've been home many a nights when the yacht club has music and they keep me up. I don't call the police. I bear with it. You know, there is Harbor Fest that I put up with. I live on West 5th Street, where I own 3 different parcels that I pay taxes on, all of them. Now, if you want to change the variance a little bit, I think maybe that's what we should be talking about here tonight. But disallowing it altogether, then I have to ask these questions. When do I actually need this variance? Is it 10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night? And what is the decibel reading on a variance that I don't need? What can I go over without a variance? These are the questions I have tonight. I never knew this many people in the First Ward were that mad about it. I wish they would have called me. I would have did something differently. But tonight, I guess now my questions are, what do you want to do? Or should I just not book any bands and have any music at all? If so, I don't need 18 employees from May 1st until the end of September. I don't need to hire a public security firm that watches my door. I don't need to stay up late at night walking around with a decibel meter in my hand, wondering if my bands are too loud. I think I'm very proactive in my business. I know what the variance means, and I know how I have to respect that. And every musician that walks in my place knows that they have to respect that. So before I leave, I would really like to know how you want to change it or what you want to do with this, because whether or not I get it or don't get it, it means a lot to my business, and that opens up tomorrow afternoon. And I have to know if I can book bands or not book bands. Thank you.
Robert, I can answer the question about the decibel level in commercial downtown is 65 decibels.
So I can go up to 65 decibels up till 10 o'clock
Up
at
to
night?
65 decibels without a variance.
Up till 10 o'clock at night?
No, that is for residential, it changes from 55 to 50 at night, but for commercial, it stays the same.
Okay. Thank you.
Just a little bit of a follow-up. We certainly don't want to damage anybody's business, but I think I would question how many people are going to stay away if the music is a little lower. Are people not going to come because it's at 65 or 70? I just don't think that that's the case. I think that staying within the legal limits of the 65, and if I understood correctly, that's up until 2 in the morning. So that there's no problem with that. And again, I just don't think it's going to affect negatively a business if you simply turn the music down. And again, not just for this gentleman's business, but for any business that is exceeding the noise level, late into the evening or early morning. Thanks.
The way this was...
Robert, we have Cindy. Is okay?
If my memory serves me, the way this was originally set up was that if there was a complaint that came into the police station, they would inform me of the complaint. I would go to the house where the complaint originated, stand in the middle of the road with my decibel meter, and see what the reading was with the officer present. I've never had to do that. So I've never really had a legal complaint about this. Now, if it has to change, I'm willing to work with that. If it's 65 at the commercial edges, I will make sure that music's not over 65 at the edge of the commercial district. But if it's 55 in residential, I would still like the option to go into that house and standing in the middle of the road and see if it's over 55. If that's acceptable, if those are the acceptable levels, that's the complaint system should still work the same way. It shouldn't be at the corner. It shouldn't be in front of my place. It should be where the complaint is coming from. That's the way you folks originally wrote that variance procedure.
Currently, with our noise ordinance, it's a 65 decibels is at the edge of your property. So it would be 65 decibels, not in the edge of the commercial property in the city, but it's at the location of the site of the noise.
Well, the variance program that you wrote, and I believe you were on the council when you wrote it, the complaint system was that I would go to the front of the house, stand in the middle of the road with a decibel meter, and take a reading. Now, if you changed that, I didn't get a new copy of what the new
There's
noise
nothing.
variance
I have the code book here, and in just a little bit, I'm going to read what our guidelines are and what we use to consider our decision when it comes to granting variances. I think that may clear up any questions about what we're going to be voting on.
But am I right? Was that the original variance that I had to go by? The rules of a complaint?
It was the edge of your property, meaning that where
Counselor, I have to disagree with you there. I don't think it was ever the edge of my property, because why would I buy a meter and go stand in front of someone's house?
The chair, I think it was right in public space. As soon as you get to public space, that's where it was. I believe it was. It wasn't the complainant's driveway or whatever.
Well, I have it here.
I personally think it was that.
If you mind, I mean, we can argue this, but I have it under the noise ordinance section 165-4, specific prohibitions. And it does says the noise shall be measured from the real property boundary line nearest to the source of the complaint. So that is what the code has, and this is our guidelines. We also have guidelines for giving variances, which I will read in just a little bit. And then, so all the counselors will be informed when we come time to vote on this.
Okay, thank you.
Cindy Pauldine again. I just want to say, first I want to say, Robert, that I have never, before this past summer, ever had to call the police or ever had a problem. This summer I needed to call twice. And for me to call is pretty unusual because I'm up pretty late and we like music. But when we did call, the police did go down to your business and no one came to our house afterwards. So that's just kind of an aside just from what Robert just said. But the reason that I came back up here was because his first statement after we spoke, I think, sums up the folly of having variances in the first place. The questions that this business owner has are exactly the reason and the confusion that arises when you give a variance here and an exception here, and somebody is told this informally and this. If you have a code, a charter, I'm not sure what the correct terminology is, but if you have those, stick with it, and then you don't have to have any of these conversations. Then your meetings are all shorter, because we aren't all here talking about them, and the business owners aren't confused about what they can do and what they can't do, and how they... Robert wants to follow the rules. When you grant variances, all of a sudden you're opening yourself up to little, tiny little bits of confusion, little squeaks and little wedges. No variances. Everybody follows the same rules, and then everybody gets thrown over. And like Mrs. Canfield said, we don't have to come here every so often and let you know how we feel.
Thank you.
I'll be fast, but I had to respond. I believe that the police have always had to measure at the edge of the property line of the source of the complaint. By the source of the complaint, it means the source of the noise, not the person's actual, not like my house or Cindy's house. If it were 85 decibels in the park, it would have to be almost 150 plus at the source to get to 85. I've been by the clubhouse. It's usually about, it usually goes to 90, 95 sometimes. It'd have to be massively more than it was for it to reach 85. That would never exist in any city at all. Actually, you won't find an 85 decibel variance, and I've tried to find them throughout the United States. As James said, they don't even do that in New York City, because in New York City they figured out that their downtown is for everybody.
Thank you. Counselors, anybody here have something to say before I read this, some information out of the... Yes, Miles.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Proper? Of course. Well, I don't know about the guy from New York City, but I think I've been to Central Park quite a few times. My parents are from Long Island. They moved up here in '42, which is before I was born. Central Park has a concert every weekend. I think that Diana Ross was down there, and they had the speakers bigger than this building down there. You tell me about the decibel play that's there. Now, I look around here, I'm looking for hippies. Well, there may be some gray-haired people around here. They must have forgot the concerts they used to have in the parks around here back in the 60s time. Yeah, what'd you do in 68 time? Look it, okay? Saratoga, Performing Arts. Okay? You tell me about what they do over there every weekend with concerts. Canandaigua, Performing Arts, every weekend, and you tell me the bands are doing a significant decimal. Now, I know that this community is starting to mature a little bit here, and we're all getting a little old, and nobody wants to put up with music, but I'm on 6th Street, and I have no problem with Spencer's Alley. Okay? I don't have a problem with that racetrack up there, where there was a former city court judge who moved up there and said, I want it closed down because he didn't want to hear the noise anymore. Let's not get too out of hand here, okay, with this stuff. Let's let the guy have the music and call the cop and tell him to go down there and cut it down. My God, I'm on Bridge Street. Those college kids go by me every weekend. Am I supposed to get upset about that? No, they go by me, 5 minutes later, I'm back to sleep again. You guys, you haven't slept through incoming. Try that sometime.
Thank you, Miles.
Anytime, Fran.
All right, I'd like to read a little bit of this chapter here out of the noise. Would you like to be, could I read this first just to kind of give you a little, for some guidelines on what exactly we're doing?
Sure.
All right, this is out of our noise, for the noise ordinance. And this is declaration of policy, and it's the purpose. This is what was meant, what our forefathers meant when we formed a noise ordinance to begin with. These are some of the guidelines. And it says, it is hereby declared to be the policy of the city of Oswego to prevent excessive, unnecessary, unnatural, or unusually loud noise within the limits of the city of Oswego. It is further the policy of the city of Oswego to secure and promote the public health, comfort, convenience, safety, welfare, and prosperity, and the peace of quiet of the city of Oswego and its inhabitants. Okay, that's the first statement in our noise ordinance. Okay, and further on it defines, pages of definitions of what it means, and it does specifically say, as I said before, the noise shall be measured from the real property boundary line nearest to the source of the complaint. All right, so that this is where it specifies here in our code what that means. To determine whether to grant or deny an application, the Common Council shall consider the hardship to the applicant, the community, and other persons of not granting the variance, as well as the adverse impact on the health, safety, and welfare of the persons affected, and adverse impact on the property affected, and any other adverse impacts of granting the variance. This is for granting a variance. And then there's a list of what exactly our decibel levels are. 55 for residential and 65 for commercial. And it changes to 50 decibels at night for residential. It's spelled right out. And we have a form that is filled out when people come up for a variance that we have adhered to, and it specifies the time and the date and the source of the noise, the type of noise, the engineering restraints, which means are there going to be baffles and so on and so forth there. But it's very clear when I read this, it is not intended for any blanket type of variance, which just says from this month to this month that go ahead and do it. There's nothing in here that even comes close to that type of recognition for granting a variance. So with that explanation in there, Councilor Todd.
I first ran for office 4 years ago. I ran pretty much solely on the quality of life issues that were going on in the ward that I live in, because I'm pretty much surrounded by fraternity houses and, at the time, a bar. And we spent a lot of time working on this, a lot of time in the neighborhood, and you're going to find very few other people, and I think most of the guys in the council agree to me, that just about every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night throughout the year, I'm out from about 9 o'clock until about 2 in the morning, just about patrolling every street in my ward. I've asked the police chief for the last 3 years that if we issue any tickets for noise ordinance violations in any of these bars that we issue these variances to let me know. In 3 years, we haven't issued any, not a single one. And every single time that we've gone, we've tried to work with, especially this owner, he's bent over backwards to try and help us. Now, I completely agree that downtown is for everybody. And that means it's for everybody. Everybody that owns a business, everybody that patronizes those businesses, and everybody that lives in those neighborhoods. And the people that live in those neighborhoods absolutely have a right to peace and quiet. But I'm going to tell you, in 3 years of going out and patrolling this neighborhood, not once have I stood in West Park and heard the noise of this place. And we've maintained it. And I park in front of the place, I park all over West Park, and not heard a single time as the noise that I've been able to even once hear through a window. What I do hear are the house parties and the college kids running up and down the street. And what I can tell you is, in 3 years of trying painfully to request some kind of meeting to alleviate this problem with the college president, she's ignored every single attempt we've had to try and mediate this problem. Every single time. What we've done is try and accommodate every single person that lives in those neighborhoods and every single business that makes a living off from those businesses and supports our taxpayers and economies. And I take a little bit of offense to people that come in and tell us that we've done nothing and that it's our responsibility to take care of just the needs of a small group of people rather than a group as a whole. And what we try to do is accommodate the whole. Now, these businesses have been there for a very long time. A very long time. Longer than I've lived here, and I was born in the 3rd Ward on Cayuga Street. And the people that live here have a right to do that. I'm going to be supporting what we've done in the past years, as far as these variances go, and I'll support it again this year because it's worked for 3 years. What we had before this didn't work. And in the last 3 years, we haven't had a noise ordinance violation.
Thank you, Counselor. Aldine?
Coming here is part of our civic duty to talk to the subcommittees of the Common Council. We have every right as voters to be able to do that. We have every right as taxpayers to do that. Typically, for any of these kind of cases, you would not find the entire population of the 1st and 3rd wards here. That'd be pretty much impossible, I would think, to have us all here. So what you see is a representative sample. My husband couldn't come, for example. That's one body that isn't here. Somebody else may be working. But what you see is a representative sample. And Councilor Todd, I don't know you, we have not had the chance to meet. I take high offense at the suggestion that we're a special interest group and that it somehow is offensive to someone or maybe more than one person on this committee that we've come here to speak about concerns about our neighborhood. Now, coming here, I mean, I have no animosity toward Robert or toward that business. I think that you've heard that. Councilor Todd, I'm, as I say, kind of a night owl. I have never seen you in my neighborhood. Never. Maybe it's because I don't know you. I have not ever seen you with a decibel meter in front of my house. I would certainly be open to this summer calling you at certain times in the morning if I have that problem, or letting you know when we've had to call the police. In my neighborhood, we don't have house parties. We don't have many students anymore, and many large students. But that's not the issue. The issue now is that we have a right to come here and speak to you, and that sentiment on the part of someone who's a representative of the voters in this city should be a red flag to anybody in your ward. There isn't just one group of people that is a special interest group. We are your special interest group. We, in fact, are the people who you represent. So now, that was an offensive statement to me personally, and I'd like to say that I would recommend that we get back to the issue at hand, which is whether you do or don't support the request. But making comments about the people who come to speak isn't helpful to the overall, to the resurrection of the city and of the neighborhoods that we're trying to do.
Fran, I'll just talk.
Go ahead, Counselor.
First of all, that's nothing of what I said.
That's not true.
That's exactly what you said.
Really, it is.
Order.
Excuse me.
It's not what I said at all.
Order. If anyone is going to speak, please be recognized through the chair first. Let's give everybody a chance to have their say. Thank you.
What I was responding to was Mr. Rizzo's statement when he first came up here. And Mr. Rizzo went on the attack and attacked every single one of our integrities. When a lot of us, as Mr. Stewart, Mr. Phillips, and Mr. Canfield will tell you, I am out there just about every single one of those nights. And that's what was offensive to me, because we are out there trying to fix this problem. Please, let one of them stand up and tell me that I'm not. Because I'm out there just about every night. You can ask the chief of police. He'll tell you just about every single weekend I'm out there because they have to deal with me when I'm calling them in. And there isn't anybody out here that spends more time trying to enforce these quality of life issues than I do. That's what I took offense to. I think you've got every right to come here and speak. What I don't like is my integrity challenge saying that we're not doing that. Because we spent a lot of time trying to work on this problem. And the only place that we're not getting any cooperation on this, because we are getting it from some of these business people that we've worked very hard to deal with, is from the college. They're the place where we can't get any leeway in here. And they ignore every single problem we have. And I'm sorry you don't have any of the frat houses and the problems that the people in my ward have. Because we've got phone calls starting on Friday night at about 9 o'clock at night, and they go to about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning for me. And we go down to every single one of them. Please, feel free to call me if you've got a house party, 529-2520, and I'll drive on down. And I'll wait right there until the police show up. That's what I took offense to, was challenging our integrity when we come in here and we're actually trying to do something. Tell me what I did and didn't say.
All right, Councilor Todd, thank you. Before I call the question on this, I just want to make a statement there that I do have actually here another packet of emails that I've received over the last several days. And these are from people that do live downtown and are very specific about where the noise complaints are coming from. Now, I didn't get these type of complaints the first 2 years. It just seems that people now are moving downtown. We have people moving in around the park. And in the last couple of years, it is tripled, my complaints. And from last year alone, I have a folder here with the complaints that I've done. I'm not going to read them all because it just goes along with what the rest of the group here have already said.
Thank you. I have a quick question for Robert. We all want to get along here. You're in a little neighborhood, downtown business district. You can run 65 decibels. Would that hurt your business if you did that? Then there would be no complaints. You don't have to come for no variances. Can we work with that?
You guys said it at 65, I'll operate at 65. But the day or the night I walk down through West Park or walk home at 11 o'clock and I hear a loud party or another band set up at another bar, you can bet I'm going to be calling someone and they better respond. Because there's a lot of noise that goes on downtown. And for someone to say it's specifically coming from my place at any given time without being there and talking and saying to one of my security guys, one of my managers, or myself, I think that's a little far-fetched. But if you set it at 65, I'll operate at 65. That was what.
Would that be okay with the residents?
That's the ordinance.
There we go.
Any more councilors before I'd like to call a question on this here?
Yes, and I'd make a motion to run for 65 decibels for his business down there, establishment, for the dates.
That's already in the ordinance.
Okay, so
that is the noise ordinance.
Chair, I believe we just take no action on it.
No action then?
We won't be allowing a variance, and we'll be operating within the city's own limits. We'll take no action on this. Robert's free to operate within those limits.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Councilor.
Councilor, I do have another question.
Yes.
If there are businesses like mine located in residential areas, they have to operate under 55.
Correct. Actually, and if it's in a residential area, they have to go to 50.
Okay. So our lakefront, if that's residential property or residential area, so any business down there or any function held down there would have to operate under 50.
They have to operate under
50 decibels.
Under 50 decibels.
So you gave permission to the Lions Club tonight to have a noise variance waiver. So now you're going to issue a waiver to them to operate over 50 decibels in the Bright Tech Park area?
During the daytime hours, yes, and this is also a one-day event.
I'm just asking
Yes.
a question, because I just want to make it clear when people start asking me.
Yes.
So there are still going to be variances issued for 1 or 2 or 4-day events, but for someone who's here year-round, we have to operate under the stricter rules.
No, it's... Pardon? Yes, Gay?
It's actually 55 in the residential areas until 9 PM, and then 50 at night.
I have.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on. Number 3, Barb Sugar. City clerk received correspondence from Elizabeth and Robert McGrath, owners of the Clubhouse Tavern, Spencer's Alley, located at 126 West 2nd Street, for use of public space on Saturday, July 25th, 2015, from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. in order to hold the annual United Way Breakfast Success by 6 program. Robert?
It's now called the Stuff a Bus program. I'm sorry I didn't change that in the letter. And I hope I can get all this support down there for the breakfast that morning, too. This is for the Stuff a Bus campaign. Last year and the years before, we've been raising about anywhere between $3,000 and $4,000 for it. It's a nice event. We set up the kitchen on the street underneath some tents at 7 a.m. Everything's usually cleaned up, and you get your parking spots back by 1 p.m. We don't leave the place messy, but there's a lot of kids that show up. Maybe they'll go over the 65 decibels that day. But it's a good affair, and I'm just trying to make light of the situation here tonight, folks. It's a nice affair, and like I said, we clean up and everything's back to normal by 1 o'clock. Thank you.
Yes, I'd just like to say Robert does a beautiful job down there. I've been there for a few times for it, and I'd like to make a motion on that.
Second? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay, under discussion, we have Councilor Eric Van Buren request discussion regarding paving the roads. Eric?
Thank you, Counselor. As I said at the beginning of the year, we were going to get together with some staff members, in particular Deb Coates, City Chamberlain, Mike Smith, and Mike Riley, the DPW Commissioner and Purchasing Agent. We wanted to put together a plan for us to start paving the roads as soon as the batch plant's open. I met with them, and we wanted to establish kind of what we were looking to achieve with this goal. And our main purpose is to operate under the CHIPS reimbursement schedule so that we can have the money that we're putting forward to pave the roads going in at the same time as the CHIPS schedule so that we can get reimbursed and continue doing this. We also wanted to make sure that we set some tangible goals doing this so that we weren't biting off more than we could chew and getting into a situation where we had to put one on the front or we had roads that were milled for an excessive amount of time left unpaved. I just wanted to let the council know that those are the things that we're going to address. We'll meet again for the next council meeting to find out what the commissioner is as far as submitting projects to CHIPS and what Mike Riley's come up with for us, putting aspects of those projects out to bid. The DPW's manpower and the levels that we're looking at, we want to make sure that with all the projects we have running, the Riley water tank and several others that we're going to close, that we can achieve those goals, and we may be bidding out portions of the project. But all those will be CHIPS projects. We want to make sure that they are reimbursable by them. So once we have that info, we can come back and start formulating a plan of where we're going to be and how much we can get done this year. And hopefully that'll allow us to start setting up a schedule so that we can continue to do this year after year, address the road maintenance problem on a steadier, more predictable timetable.
There's a question for you on this one, because we had a great discussion on this during the budget, and I think we all recognize that we need to pay more attention to our roads. And I would speak on behalf of some of the residents of the 7th Ward that went through major reconstruction because of the consent decree, and those roads have been temporarily put back together. And after a year of settling out, I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions and hopefully promises that we can make to residents to repair roads to condition that better than they were. You're talking about CHIPS, but I would also offer that because the roads were taken out of service and really put in poor condition because of the consent decree, I think one of the areas to look at is potentially consent decree funding for some of the road work. And I'm not quite sure how that would all tie in, but it's certainly we're going to be looking to pay for that, and we need to look for any and every opportunity to find resources, and I think the consent decree is an area that we should also look at for that. I would also ask and suggest that perhaps we should authorize Mike Riley to initiate, start the bidding process for the road paving. And I don't know all the details that would go into that bid, but I think if we can authorize that by Monday night, that at least opens that door for the preparation of bids for our road paving. And we'll be, because by the time we get through that process, we're going to already be into March. And I think April and May, once the plant's open, we want to be ready to run when we figure out what our priorities are for road construction. So I'd like to suggest that to the committee to put on the floor a motion for Mike Riley to solicit bids for road paving.
Just to answer some of the questions. We are meeting, Deb Code and I was on Mike Riley and those were meeting about water rates and consent decree issues and how we can use those funds. I'm hoping to address those rates next council meeting before that, to address what we can do with those dollars. We are looking at those, specifically to focus on the CHIPS money to make sure that we utilize that and focus on that aspect of paving, just for CHIPS roads, projects that will fall on. Concentric projects we're certainly looking at, but I want to make sure that those are separate animals because they are, and not lumped too much into one go. Put together a solid plan for DPW repair as well as CHIPS paving. I'd like to keep those in one animal because they have their own reimbursement schedules and time frames and work off of those. As far as the bidding aspect goes, I believe we can authorize Mike Riley to bid the project, but what we were looking for was to get the information from Mike Smith and his crew about what we were trying to pave, what roads that we what we were doing so that the bid specs that we put together were ready in time and what we were going to. Mike was going to speak to his crew to find out what it was that we were looking for and what would count as a reimbursement project. So if that's possible to authorize him to do it without having any real goal on what it is that we're going to do, we can certainly do that if the committee allows. But I would like to just know that those are the reasons we did the time.
Can I follow up on your comments there?
Other people for me.
Well,
Well, I understand.
Response to, if I
Well,
may.
we want to respond to you.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That was
Find that in order to bid it out, he's going to need the length of the roads and the the widths and everything. So you're going to need
That's
to
exactly
have an
what we're
idea
talking
what.
about. That we don't want to we want to make sure that we have the bid specs or at least an idea of what it is that we're going to be bidding for before we start the process.
Deborah? Okay. Counselor Todd?
Just a couple of things on what he says. I think what we talked about during budget was to have the commissioner work with us and try and figure out how to break this up into a 12-year cycle so that we could rely on the CHIPS money to do it. I would strongly caution about getting involved in consent decree money because right now we've kept that stable and we don't want to raise those anymore. Since everything that we do with that has to go before the federal judge anyways, I don't believe that it's in our best interest to even mess around with that money. Let's make sure that we've got the money in there, it's available to finish this project, so we don't have to raise these fees anymore. Rely on CHIPS money, get a solid plan together on how we're going to do this with the CHIPS money that we haven't been utilizing the last couple of years. Make sure it's done that way, and stay away from this consent decree work.
Yeah, Counselor, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I was just throwing that out as an option, and I think we need to explore every option for what's going to serve the city and its taxpayers, and that's all. That's why I throw that out. The only other question I would have on paving and having road widths and everything else, I don't know if there's a way, and Counselor Walker may know, he's kind of in this business. Are there, can you get a contract based on a per square foot, per yard, whatever?
Per tonnage.
Yeah, per tonnage, instead of, and that's what I'm looking at, instead of having to have specific locations, because we're going to be forever trying to identify those specific locations. If you can go tonnage, that way you know how much you can do based on the bid you get in, and then you can assign what we can couple that with what our DPW can do. We can couple that with the bid that we receive, and we can estimate then how much additional road we can do. Identifying specific roads is great, but I think that complicates what we're trying to do with a bid. That's all I'm saying. I'm not sure we can do it.
Councilman Van Buren?
The reason that you have to is because of the infrastructure and what we work into the bid process. We have to have an idea of what infrastructure we're dealing with, what's going to be on that road, and then how we deal with possible damage, replacement, repair to the infrastructure that is done. So if they're doing the milling aspect of the project, then that's something that they have to know. What roads they're working on, how much infrastructure is there, how many manholes, sewers, those type of things. If they're doing the paving, it becomes a little less complicated because the milling and the harder work is already done. They're just putting down the asphalt over stuff that was already taken care of. So that's what we really have to determine is those things come into play depending on what happens with the paving and what's going to make us most successful. If having the milling done is what's best for us and then handling the paving in-house, that's a conversation we need to have. And that also has to go into the bids process. If they run into infrastructure issues, who's going to handle it? Are we going to have our group replace it? Is that something that's going to be built into that? If so, is it on a sliding scale for minor issues that they're going to manhole cover needs to be dropped or changed or something? Is that something that those are the type of things that we need to work into the bid process. That we can't just go and say we want you to pave X miles, X tons or X yards without saying here where there's sewer lines, mains, those type of things.
If I'm not mistaken, and I think Deb can answer this, 3.5, or the Commissioner, $3.5 million is roughly what we're reimbursable for from CHIPS a year. Is that correct? Is that the amount that CHIPS reimburses?
$1 million right now.
Each year. I thought we got $3.5 million from CHIPS.
No, about $500,000. Sorry.
Okay, I thought during
It's
the
about
budget
a half.
they told us
It's
$3.5 million.
That's what's in there now.
No, $1 million tops.
It rotated over, revolved in.
That's what we've got there.
I think there's that in there now.
Can we request more money from that, Deb?
No, the commissioner could speak to that better than I can. Your CHIPS fund,
Oh, there you
Marshall.
Can you use the microphone, Michael?
Council, that's an allotment that's set in the state budget, and we have no control over that. It's set by a particular formula for all of the municipalities throughout the state.
I guess where I'm getting at is, with the amount of manpower that you have available, with the amount of CHIPS money that we have out there each year, do you have the manpower to make sure that that amount of money gets paved every single year?
We have had a struggle the last few years to make that happen. So I think my answer would be no. We haven't been able to do that in the recent past.
What about the Route 104 corridor? Who's responsible for paving that? Because most of Bridge Street, or 104 from, I'd say, Yuga Street to the forks of the road is pretty much in disrepair.
The state is responsible for that. It's still a state highway. The resurfacing.
I know we're on schedule for 2016. Can we get that moved up this year?
We have requested that, but to no avail at this point.
So the other part of that is how much money we can afford to put out to do the paving, because it's on a reimbursement basis. So any given year that can change.
I think we're
So
doing
we
a service
can't,
there.
unless
When do
we
we
have
find out when we...
for 3 to 4 months till we're reimbursed, that limits what you can and can't do as far as either hiring paving or getting paving done.
I understand all that, but at some point, we have to do something different as far as this paving. I mean, we have to fix some of these roads. I mean, there's places in my ward, I drove through Pat's the other day, and there's some places over in his that are, by the end of winter, should be pretty much impassable. I mean, they're getting pretty close. I was 5th or 6th Street that I went down the other day, that between Bridge and Huga, that's in horrible condition. And I know there's places in everybody's wards. I know in my ward, I mean, with the exception of Route 104 corridor, I would strongly suggest that in my ward and in Fran's ward, and in the lower part of or the northern part of Billy's ward, that we probably not look at doing a lot of paving until we finish doing the consent decree work, because we're just going to rip it up, that we more concentrate on Pat's and his and Eric's and Sean's, so that we're not ripping stuff up that we're going to have to pave again. I mean, let's concentrate on some areas in those wards that we're not going to have to tear up next year. I think that should be taken into consideration as well.
So Eric, where are we going with this?
Eric, I got one of them.
Miles.
Go ahead.
All right, I'm missing you behind the podium, Miles.
I don't know how you do it.
Neither do we.
Not sitting near a signed seat.
I know there's a lot of bricks showing up on the roads, okay? But you know, Councilor Todd, that our great senator who represents us here, okay, you're the one that's in charge over there at that county building. She is the one that's part of that DOT, okay? She's on that committee up there in Albany. It's time for you to start writing her, because she hasn't done anything. I don't know if that's correct English or not. She hasn't done anything for this city since she's been in there. So, Mike, get on him. She won't listen to me.
Eric, where are we going? Over to Ron?
Just one other comment on this bid thing, because I got this in my head. Whether we do it tonnage-wise and then you do a cost-plus, if there's a way to, if you have a manhole that's in a street, you just, there's an additional charge that goes in, for the cost of the paving, or I think that'd probably be the only infrastructure that we would be dealing with. The only other exception is, and we kind of caught that one today with OFD on a fire on Murray and Ellen, and we had some hydrants that were frozen up. And that kind of, talk about just complicating issues, but thankfully we had a new hydrant that was able to service the fire, but they scrambled for quite a while to try and find another hydrant that wasn't frozen up. And the only reason they're freezing is because their old valves leak, water gets in them, they freeze up this time of year, and that creates a potentially dangerous situation for our firefighters and certainly for the homeowners and the neighbors that we're trying to protect homes. And we talked a little bit about this one in budget too, and today really, drove home that point. But back to the road paving. If you can even do it in both, I'm not sure you can bid it both ways. Can you bid specific projects? Can you bid a tonnage? I'm just looking at a way that we do it, as cheaply as we can and augment what we want to do with DPW. We know we can't do it with DPW.
Counselor?
Sounds awesome. That's literally what we're doing.
Okay.
So the plan is to make sure that we put those processes together and make sure that Mike Smith asks the question to CHIPS to see what projects are going to be reimbursable. Mike Riley gets what bid specs he needs for either paving or milling with infrastructure repair, paving with whatever, those type of things all together so that we make sure that we have that plan in place when we go through.
So can we authorize on Monday night to have
I just
paving
said,
solicit bids?
if that's what you want to do and allow him to do it without knowing what we're going to be bidding, either milling or paving or whatever it is, you can do that. I think not knowing, having the council not know what it is that we're authorizing Mike to start seeing bids. I understand we don't have to accept the bids if there's something that the council doesn't like as a whole, but I think it would be better having the council on the same page when we authorize those bids so they knew what it was that we were trying to achieve. And then we can start looking at what reasonable costs we can expect, how we can do that through the schedule, reimburse in a timely fashion. Because like Deb was saying, the main thing is that we have to put the money up front and then we'll get reimbursed. So to get this on a rotating scale that keeps us in the black so that we're not hurting ourselves and getting reimbursed every time we do this again, throughout the paving season, we want to make sure that we get on a schedule that works. So,
And that's all I ask, Council. I don't want to lose any of the paving season because we don't have it very long.
Well, that's why we've got about 4 months before we're going to have
All right.
it work.
So, from what I gather, we need to identify roads. I agree with Councilor Todd in saying that let's not go paving something that we're going to tear up with the consent decree.
This was really just an update. That's what we're doing.
Do we need to?
Just as an update, that's what's happening. I just wanted to make sure that the council and the public were aware that we're focusing on those things.
Right.
Moving forward, so that when I come back to the table, you guys have more information on without having to come into this every step of the way. We have a plan that we all know is important to us and we get done.
Okay, Counselor.
I'm good. Great.
I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I need a glass of water.
I need a beer.
Why don't you take a break for a second? You guys sound like...
Before you call this one.
I'm going to wait. 5 minutes. This time, I'd like to call the Administrative Services Committee to order. Please call the roll. Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the January 12th, 2015 committee meeting?
So moved.
Yes.
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 Is there any old business to come before this committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. I'm going to go out of order. Since last committee's discussion went so well, I think I'll do it again. I would like to discuss the Brookfield Power Public Safety Agreement. John Elmer from Brookfield is here, and we'd like to talk about the changes that we made from that. I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Councilman Denver. Appreciate your invitation tonight to come talk about the agreement and about changes you've implemented since our last discussion in the fall of 2014. Following the discussion with the city, parties developed and executed a plan to resolve the mission complaints. Brookfield has conducted 2 of the census facilitated public meetings, utilizing the extra measures following October 9th and November 15th. 3 following meetings were held with smaller public safety working groups, including stakeholders, city staff, and council. Following that meeting, we had heard and gained understanding of the driveway. Work with the complaints. We held independently facilitated public meetings and organized one committee of members from Brookfield, individual elected officials, concerned citizens, stakeholders, and official community. We consulted with and obtained approval from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission regarding recommendations to improve efficiency and minimize spillover to the neighborhood, including the approval or implementation, reduction in the volume of speakers, relocating speakers, changing the siren tone, reducing the number of times the alert message is repeated, and reduction in the duration of the phone from 5 minutes to approximately 9 minutes. We performed a second sound study to test the effectiveness of the FAS modification. We modified and installed light shielding to alert users to be less intrusive in neighboring areas. We followed up with community members regarding the effectiveness of those modifications. Implemented modifications to the time of day activation to coincide with the New York State fishing regulations for the area. Drafted a revised public safety agreement which we presented to the council. That public safety agreement largely contains the following: produced an additional fishing opportunity and modifying the highest hazard area to tailrace shell fishing only. We obtained approval from the FERC and initiated the removal of the section fencing along linear park to increase fishing opportunities. Brookfield Renewable will support the city's efforts to install a walkway to the midstream tailrace law and feasibly improve the small section. The city and Brookfield Renewable agreed to enhance and promote public recreational experience for all. Individuals will now be required to wear a qualified personal association license to ground properties and anywhere to show that it's individual. We've initiated joint public safety and safety while fishing promotions through advertising, literature, and postage signage, support the joint community, Brookfield and the city, CFPB, by those engaged in recreation and fishing in the city of Brookfield is essential to maintain public safety. Brookfield Renewable will contribute to donate, or continue to donate initiated a semi-annual public safety review with the city to review safety measures, protocols, public outreach, and promotional activities. The agreement may be modified by a mutual agreement with the city of Bisbee and Mexico.
Just before we go into questions, I would like to thank Brookfield for all the work that they did doing this. They were really supportive when we brought them back to the table and discussed what we needed to change. Their public outreach was fantastic, and I think some of the changes that they implemented were really beneficial. Just like he was talking about the river steward, that's one thing that changed. The bullhorn, which is kind of an aggressive tactic that was seen as adversarial, to really a public engagement exercise, which I think really benefits the fishery, and I think it encourages people to get down there and even bring younger fishermen with them to see how safe practices can be used on the river. The PFD loaner program is going well. I'm sure the chief can speak to that. He's just going to give a thumbs up though, because he's got more talking a little later. And we'll start with questions. Councilor Caplan.
If I may, a good part of this going on. I also wanted to echo my thanks to
You're out of time.
to Brookfield for sitting down, and I will thank Councilor Todd. It was up, really Councilor Todd is the one that kind of pushed this thing along and got us all to the table, and I think we've had some very, very good discussions relative to the issues at hand. We didn't use decibel meters when we were getting the calls from our constituents. You can see how sensitive people are to decibel meters in Oswego. But I can tell you that since you instituted the new measures on the system, I haven't, and I don't know if any other counselor has received one call regarding the sirens, and I really appreciate the attention that you guys have paid to the details there. There are several things in this agreement that are worth noting, and that is that, again, and I think you can, John, maybe show the folks on the map, we do have there is one area on the river that we have now restricted fishing access, and it happens to be the point at which there were some, that's where the fishermen were the ones that were lost in the incident years ago, but that was the point at which from which the accident occurred. It happens to be the most dangerous place in that river, and I can tell you personally, I fished it, and if you take one wrong step, you go from waist deep to God save me. And so I think right now, just keeping people, fishermen, on that are walking in that river, keep them out of there is a real good move. It doesn't restrict the boats from fishing. If you're in a boat from fishing there, and it really creates, I think, a safer environment, because that's really what we're trying to do, is create a safe environment, but also promote our fishery as well. Toward that end, we are opening up more access to that river along the linear park. There's about 130 feet of fencing that's going to come down, so their fishermen will be able to access what is a very productive part of the fishery there, and that's right where the tail races enter into the river from the powerhouse, and that's a great area, and I'm sure there's a lot of folks that are going to be very, very appreciative of that. I absolutely love the river steward idea, and to have somebody there that instead of hollering people in the bullhorn, but somebody that actually is a part of promoting a fishery, a safe fishery, I think really creates the right atmosphere for moving our all of our goals to together here, and that is, again, a safe public fishery. We also did include in this agreement a semi-annual review. We didn't have that before, so it kind of forces us to sit down and talk about on a regular basis. And you know what? You'll learn as you go. And we had an agreement. We thought it was good, and certainly there's always ways to improve it, and we've set this agreement up so we can improve it from year to year if we need to, half a year if we need to do that. In addition to this agreement, we've also, I spoke with our planning director on this, and I know the mayor's aware of it, but we also talked about future upgrades to the fishing access itself, and that's, how do we get, how do we improve the middle wall, for example, that's in a great state of disrepair, but also can provide additional fishing access for folks, and how do we get them to that wall safely? We've talked about that. We've also talked about the area that we're restricting now, about putting some sort of a permanent structure up that will allow safe fishing from that area. And so we do have some long-term plans, and those are not, it's not going to take a year or two. We've got to put the plan together. We've got to try and find the funding. But this happens to be an area, whether it's, with Great Lakes
Thank you,
or...
Councilor Caput. Councilor Todd.
Yes, sir. I get on a roll. I'm sorry. I just kind of...
Mine will be quick. I just wanted to thank Councilor Van Buren and Councilor Capelowitz for trying to mitigate this with Mr. Elmer. I know we kind of got off on a rough start, but I want to commend Brookfield for the changes that you guys have made with this. I think this will be really beneficial going forward in the long run, and really help the quality of life for the people that live along that river. So thank you guys for coming to the table and working with these two to help come up with these things. And these are some real positive changes. I know the people in my ward thank you.
Can I finish, Council?
No,
Jesus, no.
Anyone else?
Just want to, quickly, I just want to thank you for just an outstanding job, and the degree of professionalism and the solutions that you came up with here goes right down, I think, what we've all been looking for, so thank you very much.
With that, I will be looking for a motion to authorize the mayor to sign this agreement.
I'll make the motion.
I'll say.
Please call the roll. Yes.
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 Thank you all. City Attorney. Thank you guys for your patience.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate all the help with Chief Larry and Chief from the Cody and Councilor President Effort and the City of the City.
Under authorizations, item number 1, Caroline Anderson, Animal Control Officer, requests permission for the mayor to enter into a contract with the town of Sandy Creek for sheltering dogs at the Oswego Animal Shelter. The new contract would provide a small increase in revenue for the Animal Control Department. Ms. Anderson.
Sorry. Is it working? Yes, okay. I was contacted by the town of Sandy Creek. They recently acquired a new dog control officer who happens to be dog control for Richland, which is a town that we already contract with. They're interested in using our shelter for dog sheltering services, as we already contract with 7 other towns in the county right now. So it's a small town. It wouldn't be a large burden on our shelter, and I don't know exact numbers on how many dogs they'll bring in every year. The last dog control officer didn't give very accurate numbers, so they're hoping to have a better idea after this year, but I would be surprised if there were more than 20 dogs a year, something like that. But it would be good for the town and good for us to get a little more money.
Any questions? Councilor Walker?
I have one question. Do you have to go get the animals, or they deliver them?
They bring them to me. I do nothing except for take the dog from at the door.
That's all I want to hear. Thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Caput.
Ms. Anderson, what capacity when we include this town, is there like a peak load that we have, and can we accommodate additional animals, or?
It would depend on the size of the town. We have a variation of anywhere between 50 and 50-plus dogs a year, depending on the season and the time. We're busy regardless through the months, June through
How many
August.
can we house?
We can house up to about 25 dogs at any given time, but we do really well with adoptions. So I don't like to get to capacity. It's very stressful for the dogs, and we work with a lot of rescues to get them in and out and things like that. But we can house about up to 25.
I wonder if we could have you rescue.
I know Ms. Anderson's been very proactive in getting other people on board and seeking revenue streams and donations. Thank you again for that. If there's no other questions, I'll take a motion. Yes.
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 Carrie, can you do a resolution for that? Thank you. Item number 2, Barbara Sugar, City Clerk, is requesting authorization for Mayor Thomas Gillen to execute any and all documentation required by our state legislators and the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance, authorization 1% sales, compensating use tax for the period December 1st, 2015 and ending 30th, 2017. There's an attachment. City clerk was here. Ms. Code, do you have anything to add to this?
Leave every 2 years?
Questions? Yes.
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 All right, moving on to travel requests. Chief DeCare has 2 on here. I'm going to read them both. I'll let him speak to both, and then when we do it, we will vote twice on this. Item number 3, Tori DeCare, Police Chief, requests permission to send 1 police officer to social networking investigation training to be held in Ulster County, New York, on February 18th through the 20th, 2015, and there's an attachment. Item number 4, Tori DeCare, Police Chief, requests permission to send 2 police recruit officers to a 6-month police training basic course for police officers at the Elmira Police Academy in Elmira, New York, on February 23rd, 2015, and there's an attachment. Chief.
Thank you, Counselor. The first one, we're going to be sending an investigator who's also a general topics instructor. They're going to go get the information, bring it back, and disseminate it to the rest of the department so they can use it in their investigations. The second one is the police academy. It's a residential academy, meaning they stay there during the week, they can come back on the weekends. The tuition also includes lodging, which would be one of the dorms up there, so it's a pretty good deal.
Any questions?
Motion.
Any questions on item number 4? I'd like to vote on both, so if we can make a motion, we can vote another motion right after we finish.
Sure, motion on 3.
This is for item number 3. Yes.
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 Counselor Todd?
Second.
Yes.
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 Items number 5, 6, and 7, I'd like to do the same thing. Chief McCroby, Jeff McCroby, Fire Chief, requests permission to send 9 personnel to the Adirondack Code Enforcement Officials Conference to be held March 1st through the 5th, 2015 in Lake Placid, and there's an attachment. Same, request permission to send 4 personnel to the Code Enforcement Annual Training Conference to be held October 20th through the 23rd, 2015 at Montour Falls, New York. And the same, request permission to send 1 personnel to the Fire Officer 1 to be held February 20th through the 22nd, 2015 in Montour Falls, and 1 personnel to the Fire Investigator 2 to be held March 2nd through the 13th, 2015 to be held in Montour Falls. Chief.
5 and 6 take care of the 13 CEOs that we have that is on my level. One's in Lake Placid, the other one's in Montour. So far in advance for Montour, we have to book the books up real fast, so we got to get in there. The other one is officer development, possible future officer there, and part of our rotation of fire investigators. At some near retirement there, we can get some newly certified.
Any questions? Counselor Walker.
And number 5 and 6, how many people do we have already code enforcement?
These are ones that are current.
These are current ones?
And the CEOs have to get 24 hours
A year?
A refresher.
A refresher.
And we've got 11 CEOs in the fire department, and then there's Sue and Sam, and then we've got 10 more CCTs, which is the lower level, which doesn't require 24 hours. I think they require 8 hours. They can do a lot of the footwork and stuff for CEOs. They can go out and do work. They can look at jobs and everything, but they're more like operating under the higher license of the CEO.
I got a question. How come we have so many? I'm just asking.
We've got a pretty big caseload, and I think you're probably going to see it from...
We did it for years with 1. I know a lot wasn't done, but I mean, I understand.
Make that argument. We might have had 1, but they didn't do anything.
Well, I'm just bringing it up, we had 1.
Easy on those comments, Counselor.
Yeah.
Through the chair. Some of the reason why we have to have so many right now is because the fire departments are on rotating shifts. So these guys come in and out, they have their 3 days off. There's people that have to come in on every shift, and each shift has to have enough people qualified so they can pick up where the other ones left off.
Okay. Any other questions?
any companies out there inspecting, you probably see it's doing a lot downtown in the last couple of months or so. That's beyond you guys doing the fire. It's always done for the business.
Any other questions?
I have one question. Could you give us a refresher plan of how you own line? You have any line works for you? I don't believe so.
Anyone else? If that's okay, then we'll do the same thing as the last time.
Motion number 5, please.
Second 5.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Motion on number 6.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Second.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Chief.
Counselor, can I make one comment before you move to the next one? I just wanted to say that I had a chance, we had a fire today in 7th Ward, and I had a chance to right down the street from me, and I just wanted to thank the chief and the rest of the team there for what was standing there and watching what they did and how they did it in cold weather, and it was pretty amazing to me. And I can only tell you that I'm very proud of you guys. And, nobody got hurt. That's what matters. And, it's only stuff, but somebody lost some very precious stuff. I'm sure memories in that house, but really thank you guys for what you did.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Counselor. Easy there, Mike. All right. Item number 8, under transfer of funds. Deborah Code, City Chamberlain, requests authorization to transfer funds in the amount of $185,300 from the self-insurance fund to A1910.0460 unallocated insurance, as the City of Oswego is contracted for liability insurance coverage.
Thank you,
Go.
Counselor. This was the plan to partially close the self-insurance fund to offset the cost of the new insurance agency, NYMER, for this year.
For those of you who weren't around or didn't know, we switched from a self-insurance fund to hiring out and having a company. This will save us some legal fees. It saves us from having to build our own self-insurance fund, which is subject to deadly hits anytime a lawsuit comes before us. This will give us a little better leverage when it comes to claims coming in for the city, and they will handle it, incurring a lot of the administrative costs. Jay Williams was instrumental in keeping the self-insurance fund going. She did a fantastic job for the number of years that we had it. It helped us weather a pretty tough storm back when the insurance rates went crazy and a lot of municipalities couldn't handle it. So thank you for those times. Anyone else have any questions? Comments?
Yeah, Ms. Code, do we have any outstanding, how do we handle those claims that were brought against the city when we were self-insured?
There's still funds available in that account
Okay,
for what's left.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Motion? Yes.
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 Item number 9, Deborah Code, City Chamberlain, states the City of Oswego has requested additional legal services from the Assistant City Attorney and therefore is requesting authorization to transfer funds in the amount of $8,000 from the A1990.0461 personnel contingent to A.1420.010.0101 Law Department personal services for the same. We also talked about this during the budget time. We talked about increasing our legal service time. The discussion has been amongst the counselors to switch to full-time corporate counsel, and I think, some of us have disagreed on whether we need to jump in to that level. I think dipping our toe in the water and getting started with some more legal coverage during meetings and what we have going on in City Hall from day to day in our operations, it might be a good idea to have them in-house more so that we can reach them. That I'll go to the council. This is really Councilor.
I think this is a good idea. Since I've been on the council, there's been quite a few times that I've gone down and had to meet with Gay and Tom. And every single time, they've been there for us, both of them, in my opinion, have done a great job for the city. I agree with Councilor Van Buren. I think that there's been times that I think we need more coverage. What we have them contracted for now doesn't cover this, and there's times that we need some extra help. I think they've done a great job for the last 3 years that I've been on here, and I think this is sorely needed to make sure we keep more of this stuff in-house and stop sending it out where we get charged at a higher rate, because the two attorneys that we have right now do a great job for the city of Oswego.
Councilor? Councilor Emmerich?
Yeah, I just want to say that with this council, we've been very aggressive, I feel, in the last few years with requesting code changes. And with that, there just wasn't enough time in a day for one person to be doing that. And really, we're starting to reap the benefits already with some of the work that the assistant has been doing and taking care of a lot of this work that is happening. And I thank both of them, Gay and Tom, for the work that they've done.
Any other questions or comments?
Move it.
Second.
Yes.
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 Councilor Capelitz, anything you want to discuss? All right, executive, item number 11. Oh, I'm sorry, we have an add-on.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
what we have. The city attorney would like to discuss permit changes requested by the common council. Hey, I think we put that 8,000 in.
Reaping the benefits.
So we gave you a handout, and there are two things to look at. Number one is the proposed local law number 2 for the year 2015. And it purports to amend, and then you'll see there's a whole paragraph of all the sections of the code that would be amended. And what we'd like to do is go through those one by one so that the council can make a determination that each one of those sections of the code will be amended, or which ones of those will be amended by this local law. And we have a couple, 2 or 3 that we recommend that did not apply to. But the language of the local law itself is on the, where you see add in capital letters that are bolded. No general language is no such permit shall be granted to or renewed for an applicant who is in violation of any city or legal code, ordinance, or local law, hereinafter violations, or who owes property taxes, water or sewer fees, special assessments, fines for violations of city ordinances, or any other fees to the city of Oswego, and then we call that unpaid money through the rest of the local law. It is a local law because it has to apply to so many different parts of the code, and it also actually applies to one section of the charter, too. Before we move on, there are 2 sections of the charter that will be done separately because they are permits that are granted by the common council, and they need different language from this. So, that's the general language, that anybody who owes any property taxes, water, sewer fees, special assessments, fines, violations, any money to the city would not be eligible for a permit for all of these various purposes that people need to get permits for, that we will go
that Gay suggested, this, just so everyone understands, and Pat, I know you've seen a few of these, but when we authorize the public hearing on this, it cannot be amended after that. So we need to make sure that this says what we want it to say and affects the areas of the law that we want it to affect, so that when this, we can pass this in a timely fashion. Because I understand it's been a long time coming. We've all wanted it. So while this may seem tedious, it is important for us to go through and really think about what it is that we're going to be making these things do, and if there's any areas that we want to change, we need to do that now.
Also, there are a few areas where there's references to certificates rather than permits, so if you wanted to do additional local law, rather than catch all of those changes, you can change it, so you can change it.
Section A also says that the applicant has provided the proof acceptable to the department that they don't have any unpaid money or violations. I understand that the Chamberlain office has been dealing with this already, and that the applicants need to go to the Chamberlain's office and then they do a search.
She had to step out.
Anyway, I spoke with her. They do a search of their records and provide that evidence. We also, actually, this is Tom's language, most of it, that if the applicant has approved violations or has unpaid money, the permit will be denied, or the renewal, if the renewal of a permit denied, regardless of whether the unpaid monies or violations apply to the specific property for which they're asking to permit, or any other property that they own. So if they have violations or unpaid monies or anything on any other property, it's still what we're from getting a permit for a different property. That's part B. Under Section C, the permit for renewal would be denied regardless of whether the violations or unpaid money occurred or accrued before the effective date of this local law. If there are already unpaid monies or violations and the person came the day after the local law goes into effect, those existing violations or unpaid monies would prohibit them from getting a permit. Also, D addresses the fact that they could accrue violations or unpaid monies, or they could be discovered after they get a permit, and that's grounds for revocation of the permit. So the permit could be revoked if they end up in default or owe us money after.
Okay. You use the word could and this says shall.
Yes, it shall. It shall be immediately revoked.
Okay, and that was just one question that I have. If there is a discovery, is there, we're going to say you're done. You're not going to say within 30 days. If we make a discovery and give them 30 days to make it right, and then at that point revoke, and that's, I just bring that up as a point of discussion.
This says immediately, but it can be changed. That's why we're talking about this tonight. It needs to be changed before the council meeting next Monday. But if the council wants to change that at a particular time to remedy, then that's fine.
Can I comment on that? The only thing I'll say about that is, if the fines or any of the fees have become a default, it's because they already passed that 30 or 40 days. I believe it should take effect immediately because they've already basically demonstrated that they have no intention to pay the fees, or they'll do it at their time.
Let me give you an example. You get a permit and you find out sometime we let something slip through the cracks, didn't get the information right, maybe it was a parking ticket or two or something, and you find out, like, you know, somebody owed us $100, we didn't know it. But we issued the permit. Based on the language here, you say immediately revoke. You want to give them, you know, should there be language that would allow for them to make it right? So
I
if
think
you've
you
been through
walk-
a process, you got a permit, you give them 30 days to make it right, and then you move forward. That's all I'm suggesting. Because there might be those circumstances.
I mean, you get in a situation here, Ron, where there's starts becoming exceptions for everything. At this
Should be a
point,
variance for this.
so what we have demonstrated in a lot of places in my ward are places that haven't paid taxes in 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years at a time.
Scoff
And we're,
ball's
well, or that they got repeated violations for parking violations or trash violations or lawn mowing violations, and they get 7, 8, 9, 10 of them all summer long.
I agree with you.
So, I mean, once they've become in default, that means they've missed their court date, they didn't pay their fines on time, they've usually gone 5, 6 months past where they've done before they ever make it in front of the city attorney or the codes office. They basically ignored it for all that time. Why should they get any leeway?
I don't believe, I think you have to come down hard on them. What if you have somebody that didn't realize and they inherited a piece of property that because a parent or grandparent passed away and didn't realize a certain tax was paid, went to make an improvement, you issued a permit, and you found out afterwards, you know what, they owed us a couple of bucks. And that was not, and it was an inadvertent oversight that I think you need to have a way to deal with that.
Would 5 business days be something we could add in?
I could do 5 business days,
That would give them
but
5
I'm not
days
giving them 30.
if they're open. I think
That's fine.
once they notice, if they cannot come up with the monies to rectify whatever the fine is.
5 days would be acceptable, but 30 is...
Through the chair.
Councilor Unruh.
If we do revoke a permit, right, there's a fee that somebody pays for it, and then they come back, they pay their unpaid debt, right, and then do they have to pay the fee again, second time, right?
Well, the way it is now, Section E says no application fee shall be refunded upon revocation of the permit. So revoke, they would have to...
Well, they wouldn't get revoked if they had the 5 days. If they went past the 5 days, then it would be revoked and they'd have to pay it again. So that 5-day window that they'd have would not cause them to pay twice.
So that 5-day window
5
covers
business
that.
days.
5 business days.
Okay.
5 business.
5 business days.
Change the language so that it will not be revoked until 5 business days after they receive notification.
Yeah.
They are notified.
That's fine.
And this should substantially increase revenue.
You know what? Just make a suggestion. We don't want every department to have to send out on something like this on a revocation. We want them to have to send out a certified letter, because if it's certified, then we can make it 5 days from the date they received it. If it's not, if it's from the date we mail it, we really need to give them more than 5 days, because we might not even get it for 5 days. So,
Let's do that, because that's better for continuity purposes. There's no excuse then.
so you want it 5 days from the date of receipt?
Right, yes.
Okay, then they'll have to send it. Okay. All right. The Section F says that the applicant must reapply for the issuance of a revoked permit, submit a new application, pay the new application fee for any permitted activity. And they can only resume those activities once the new permit is granted. And Section G just makes sure that this applies to corporations, LLCs, LLPs, any non-person entities are affected by this the same as an individual is. And as further clarification, you could be a shareholder in a corporation and have a 1% interest in the corporation. So
make this a little bit better, in case because most of the kind of corporations receive what fines for things for these small companies. And so the fast ones do shareholders of that. So this is a combination. Sorry, for the corporations to avoid the tax.
Okay. Then the next part is where we've written up the permits to be affected by the local law. You see that? Okay. So Tom and I tried to just give a quick explanation of what each permit is for. So for example, the first one is section Article 13, Section 7 of the charter to tap a water main. All right, so it's a permit that you have to get to tap a water main. No, you want this to apply?
Yes.
All right. The second one is one that we have not recommended.
Can we do a show of hands at least, make sure we have them?
Sure.
The second one is alarm, and this is a permit to connect to 9/11, and your alarms up to 9/11 because it affects health and safety issues, and also there's local law that requires this. We're saying that we're recommending that this refusal to give a permit or revocation provision not apply to this.
Show of hands to leave this out of.
Leave it out.
All right. The third one, alcoholic beverages on public property, Chapter 59. It involves issuing a permit to somebody or an organization to distribute or consume alcoholic beverages, say, break that park. Apply?
Yeah.
Chapter 63, animals. This applies for permits that have a business such as a pet shop or a grooming shop.
Show of hands.
Chapter 95, coastal erosion control permit is to engage in, you have to have a permit to engage in certain regulated activities if you're in a construction activity in a coastal erosion hazard area. So we think it's fine if you want to do that, you just have to be paid up. All right. Chapter 126, you definitely want this. Building permits, rental permits, demolition permits. Okay.
Yeah, we'll take that one.
Thank you.
Section 126, 21, rental permit, yes.
Yes.
126, 22, demolition permit.
Yes.
126, 23, permits to transport, store or transport the hazardous materials.
Yes.
All right, section 133 is flood damage prevention. These are permits. We didn't think that it was a good idea because this was, again, a sort of a safety measure. So that probably we shouldn't deny somebody a permit.
Show of hands to leave this out.
Leave it out.
Chapter 149, permit for a mobile home court. I don't even know. We don't even know if we have them, but anyway.
Yeah, we got one.
We do have one.
All right, so they have been paid up. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is a permit by the council allowing sound amplification. So we'll pull that out and it'll be on a separate one.
All right, so
Okay.
that 9 doesn't apply.
9 won't apply to this, but are we in agreement that we would like to have that added into the next one?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Chapter 180 is the handling and soliciting ordinance that you have to pay and get permits to and go door to door for sales and solicitation. Why?
Absolutely.
199 for someone outside the city to connect to the city sewer system. City sewers.
Say that again, Willie.
Five more times, Gabe.
City
A little
sewer.
faster each time.
Yeah. Okay. Apply?
Yes.
If you're connecting, if you're connecting to the city sewer for outside the city, I mean,
I
that,
anticipate somebody who's like, I think, Davis, who is the next, some of those are connected to the city sewer line.
but if they're outside the city, that,
But they could also, they could be in rental property, the city would have to kick it in the city, and that's not true. So they should get paid.
okay, now I see where you're going. That's good, yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to have unpaid taxes to the city.
Okay. But they may own property in the city.
Or they could owe us money for something else.
Okay.
Try and stay with us.
19930 is very limited, but you're going to have a private wastewater facility and not be in the sewer system. You have to have a construction permit for that. Why? Section 19932, to operate the private wastewater facility. And 19942, to connect to the city sewer, so if they don't in the house. All right, 19948, connect for groundwater to the sewers. You have to have a permit to do that. That's fine. 19955, trucking waste to sewage treatment plants. I mean, for them to bring in waste. 19964, wastewater discharge permit that our sewage treatment plant would provide. And for individuals, for pollutants, it's 64.1. 71 is wastewater discharge for individual users. Yes? 207, permit to operate a solid waste facility. Yes? 211, to excavate in public space, this is under streets and sidewalks. Yes, apply. 245, for utility, to excavate in public space, specifically for utility poles. You have to have a permit for that. Yes. 249, this is the dumpster permit under the vacant and occupied property section, the dumpster permit. Yes. Under vehicle and traffic law, 257, this is one we don't recommend. And you have to get a permit to back up to the curb to unload materials. And we were thinking if somebody has to do that right away, that maybe...
Let me ask you a question. When was the last time anybody applied for a permit for that?
I don't have any...
I mean, I'm pretty much guessing people are backing up, dropping their stuff and going. Nobody's going to be there to...
I mean, I suppose, I was thinking...
Chief, do you issue a lot of tickets for that?
The permit, but then if you're denied, then you have to go...
I think it's not a problem if we don't do this one. I agree with you. Let's not do this one.
Show of hands, leave this one out.
Okay.
Yeah.
263, to purchase and haul water from the city. Leave it in. 274, wireless telecommunications facilities, recite and use the facilities in the city.
does this include things like the Time Warner franchise agreement?
Why, do they have a lot of unpaid fines?
They don't pay us?
Wireless,
Don't help
would
us,
have
sure.
to look and see.
They have a lot of unpaid fines?
They owe us money?
They may owe us money.
This is only for fines, Ron.
Well, no, it's not, Michael, go back. Unpaid taxes, fees, et cetera.
Right. Taxes, fees, and stuff. They don't pay any of that.
It's called a franchise fee, you pay the city. I think they owe us money.
I don't
I like
believe
it.
so.
Tom has a book here, so he can tell you.
There it says Comcast, and they're going to take them over. What an operation they make. That's terrible.
Miles.
Moderated by the
Chair.
PSC.
Two
It's
chairs,
irrelevant.
they're terrible.
Long-term commission. We can't stop them from broadcasting.
Placement, construction, and modification
I
of
don't care if they've got a
wireless
fee.
telecommunications facilities. What chapter covered? What is it?
Whether it includes it or not is a whole nother, if it's there, then that's a whole nother matter, but we can include it.
And the last one is under zoning for the ZBA, zoning board of appeals to issue and grant special permits.
Oh, yes.
I've spoken with the chairman of the zoning board on this one, and she's very interested in having this.
All in favor?
Okay, so we will make the appropriate revisions on the local law, and that will be on your desk for Monday night, and that has to be in its final form for the hearing, public hearing, so you need a motion tonight to go forward and set the public hearing next Monday.
Make a motion?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Resolution?
Set the public hearing when we're done with the city clerk.
Okay. Item number 11, executive session. Jeff Groby, Fire Chief, requests an executive session regarding the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. Need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion.
Yes.
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 Good. Any other business? No. Capital second.
Capital seconds, okay. Where are you?
Mike, make the tape reflect everybody saying that.